Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. It's Arlene. If you'd like to see how I made these two beautiful loaves of apple pie sourdough bread, then stick around. Came out absolutely awesome. So I started my dough early this morning and it already bulk fermented. I will put my bread recipe in the description box below. But now what I'm doing is I am chopping up my apples. So I peeled and cored 4 apples and sliced them into about a 1/4 to a 1/2 inch slices. And now I'm just putting them through this chopper. I believe my mother got this chopper from either QVC or HSN, and it makes perfect little squares. I love it. See how uniform they are? It just makes everything so much easier. So now that all my apples are chopped, now I'm going to take some cinnamon. And depending on how many apples you're using, you could put as much or as little cinnamon if, in that you want. But I'm just sprinkling it on until I feel I had enough. And then the next thing I'm going to put in is some flour. Now, what the flour is going to do is the flour is going to absorb the juice in the apples so that when you go to put it into your bread, when you're doing your burrito fold, this way it's not a juicy, hot mess. Because I'm also going to be adding some brown sugar, and usually brown sugar and cinnamon in a loaf of bread, the sugar will get, very liquidy. So to avoid that, that's why we add the flour. The flour is going to absorb all that juice, and this way it's not going to make a mess in your bread. So I'm just adding about 4 tablespoons of brown sugar. And we're going to mix that very thoroughly until all that flour is coating all those apples with the cinnamon and with the brown sugar. And I'm telling you, anything that you're going to put in bread that will be liquidy, you want to add flour to it. So I'm pre-shaping my 2 loaves, and I'm just doing the pull and turn on my counter. But this is how you start it off. So you open it up like a rectangle, and then you fold it up, fold it over again, and roll. Tuck it in, roll. So that's how you want to pre-shape your dough. So after I pre-shape the dough, I just let it sit on the counter. If I see any big, huge bubbles, I'm going to pop them. And I'm just going to let it sit on the counter for about 15 minutes, 10-15 minutes, just to let it settle. This dough was so beautiful. It came out so perfect. I was so pleased with it. So after you let your dough rest for 10-15 minutes, now it's time to laminate the dough so that you can add your inclusions. So I'm just stretching the dough out, trying to be as gentle as I can, because you don't want to make a hole in your dough. And you do not want all the bubbles to pop. But like I said, if you see big giant ones, yes, pop them. So this takes about a minute or so. You want to make sure you get it nice and evenly stretched out. Just popping some of those bubbles. Now I'm taking my mixture and I'm going to put it all over the surface of the dough, leaving about 1/2 inch around the edge, because we want to be able, when we're rolling it, to be able to have it seal. So you don't want the apples all the way to the end. You want to be able to seal those apples inside. So by leaving at least a 1-inch edge all the way around, we're going to be able to do that. Are some apples going to maybe fall out or pop out of the dough? Of course. But this technique helps it greatly. So now we're just folding up the dough. And I had just made myself some toast. I cleaned my whole counter off. I made myself a piece of toast and I buttered it on the counter instead of grabbing a plate like a knucklehead. And it was my everything bagel seasoning bread. So I got a couple of the poppy seeds on the counter that are stuck in my dough, and that's what I'm picking out because I don't want poppy seeds with my apple pie sourdough. So there was like 3 or 4 little poppy seeds that I was just taking off. This is the first time I'm ever making like an apple pie sourdough bread. So I don't know if I use too many apples. I'm hoping like the inside of the bread is not all filled with holes. So I won't know until I cut it after it's baked and I let it cool for a few hours. So now I'm just folding it over. I am going to pinch those sides together so the apples don't fall out as I'm rolling it, hopefully. And then I'm just rolling it up and pulling it towards me. And that's going to cause some tension in the dough, and it's going to help with the top of the loaf. So now I'm just pulling it towards me and turning it on the counter. That also creates some tension. And you don't want to do this too many times. You don't want that dough to break and all your apples and your cinnamon and your brown sugar to be coming out. So you just want to be very gentle with this part. Any big bubbles pop. But like I said, very gently, and you want to pinch those sides together, which will help hold all those apples in. So I follow on TikTok and Instagram this girl named Caitlin, and she's also the one that I bought my sourdough starter from. She is from Seaford Sourdough Company, and she's just wonderful. She's been such a help with teaching me how to get into the sourdough and how to make it and everything. So she purchased those white containers that are an oval shape and that are perfect when you have to put your batard in, because this is not a bowl, it's not round, it's oval, so it's called a batard, and it fits perfect in the basket. I absolutely love them, and they're at the Dollar Tree, and plus they come with lids. So if you are making, just anything that you want to store in your refrigerator, it comes with a plastic lid that snaps on. But it's the perfect shape instead of buying the oval-shaped batatons that cost like $10-15 a piece. These were $1.25 at the Dollar Tree with a lid. So I grabbed 4 of them. I'm going to go back and get more in case I want to bake 5 or 6 loaves at a time. So here's my second loaf. I'm just rolling up, again, pressing the sides together. This is so much fun, you guys, making sourdough bread. I am very obsessed. And I'm just waiting for more tomatoes and stuff to do my canning, because I want to can up a whole bunch of sauce. So I know I have quite a few canning videos on here. But yeah, I'm absolutely loving the bread. And by the middle of the fall, I'll get into all the canning again and stock up for the winter. So now we're just going to put some rice flour. Now that's the top of the loaf. So the rice flour is going to go upside down in the container with a towel so it doesn't stick. And as you can see how beautiful it fits in there. Now both of these I'm just leaving rest on the counter for another 10 minutes. I'm trying to close up a little hole that was there. So while I let them rest, now's the time that you want to seal. You know, some people do like a stitch, like a sewing, you know, you take one side, the other side, you fold it over. But because I put the rice flour, it's really not sticking, so I'm just gonna play around with it for a little bit and make sure that there's no holes, nothing's popping out. If there is, I'll spray it with a little bit of water to, you know, make it gooey again. See, I just made that hole there. It was very thin over there. Which that's the bottom of the loaf when you go to bake it, so I guess it really doesn't matter, but I was just trying to seal up whatever I could, and I think I was making it worse as I was going, so, you know, there's a time when you need to stop. So now that both of them are done, I covered the towel over the whole entire thing of bread. And I'm going to stick them in the refrigerator overnight. And fingers crossed that they come out beautiful after they are baked. So it's next morning and I took my loaves out of the refrigerator. And my oven is preheated to 460 degrees. Now, I have these beautiful little loaf pan parchment paper thingies that I bought from Amazon. I'll have the link in the description box below. And the loaves fit perfect in it. And then I am going to be baking these in loaf pans, which the pans I also got from Amazon. And they fit perfectly in there. Now, it's a 2-pan system. This I also learned from Caitlin over at Seaford Sourdough Company. You could follow her on Instagram and on TikTok. So now I'm just taking my cinnamon, and I'm just going to put cinnamon on the top because I want the top of the loaf after it bakes to be really nice and brown. So I'm just spreading some cinnamon, and then I'm going to do my scoring, which for these that are in the loaf pan, I'm just taking my razor blade and going straight down the middle of the loaf where I want it to be at least a ½ inch into it. So I was cutting into some apples, so I'm going over it again because when it bakes, you want it to expand and rise as high as you can get it to go. So you want to keep cutting until you're through the apples and you know that it's going to expand. So now that both of my loaves are in their pans, what you need to do is you need to spray each loaf very liberally with water. And you always want to use filtered water no matter what you do with sourdough bread, because you don't want to use it right from the tap that has chlorine in it. Sourdough does not like that. Now, I am putting another loaf pan on top. And when I put it in the oven, this is going to capture the steam, which helps the bread to rise. This is going to go in the preheated oven and bake for 30 minutes. After 30 minutes, you take your loaves out, you take the top pan off. Now this one was a little stuck, I guess because the dough was seeping out through the side a little bit. So I am going to shut off the camera, work my way around with the knife and get it off. So I was able to get it off. Didn't take much. I think next time what I'm going to do is I will spray with a oil spray around the edges of the pans. This way nothing sticks. But now these go back into the oven for another 20 to 25 minutes. And I'm going to lower the temperature to 350. I'm sorry, 450. So now that they're totally baked, look how beautiful. They rose absolutely gorgeous. Nice and crunchy on the tops and the sides. And now I'm just going to flip them out of their pans. Take off the parchment on the bottom. And they come out so easily. Look at that. Perfect. Peel that parchment paper off. You want to tap the bottom and hear that it's nice and hollow. I always put a thermometer in my bread to make sure that it's between 200 and 210 degrees. That's when you know the inside is baked. But yeah, look how beautiful they came out. My kitchen smells like apple pie. So amazing. And like I said, these loaf pans and the liners I purchased from Amazon as per request, or not request, I don't know what the word is, from my friend Caitlin. She said that these pans work beautifully and with the liners. And so yeah, I'll have a link in the description box below. But there's my bread. Absolutely beautiful. Thanks for watching, everybody. Please don't forget to subscribe, hit that notification bell, and to give it a thumbs up. Hit that like button. I would really appreciate it. Everyone stay tuned for the final picture of how it looks inside. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye. All right, guys. So are we ready to check out the inside? I did not peek, I promise. I just cut it. And now let's open it up. Oh, there is a big hole in there, but that's okay. Look at all this is a heavy loaf, let me tell you. But I do see a gaping hole right there and one there. Oh my God, but it smells so delicious. I can't wait to toast a piece up with either some butter or some cream cheese, some whipped cream cheese. Oh my God, delicious. Thanks for watching, everyone.